If you're new around here, welcome. I opened this up today. I did it accidentally. I opened it up today, maybe in the Christmas spirit, perhaps, um, for everyone. But I take this walk every day and invite my subscribers to join me on the walk. This is a walk over to the coffee shop. And a little bit of background, I host a show every day called Java with Jeff, and it's morning mindsets, morning mindfulness, mindsets for growth. And so I started this a little while, maybe a month ago. And the idea was to expand the audience a little bit, open this up to more people. Java with Jeff is for a community called Entre Architects, Entrepreneurial Small Firm Architects. It's a closed community there. So, the things that we talk about there, the mindfulness, the mindsets that are necessary for growth, it's not just for architects. And it's they're necessary for everybody. So I wanted to find a way to open these conversations to everybody. And so here we are. You can walk with me over to the coffee shop, and it'll be a continuation probably of the conversation that started over on Java with Jeff. But today I restacked. If this is the correct Substack term. There's somebody called Meditation by Ram Dass, I think, a creator on Substack, and I appreciate their content because they start with some quote from Ram Dass and then write a longer form article about it. And the one today, the one that I restacked today, started with the Ram Dass quote that says, "It's all grist for the mill," and the article talks about the things that we carry that we shouldn't be carrying, that we don't need to carry. Maybe is a better way to say that. The as I read that, it kind of struck home. I was on Java with Jeff earlier. I was talking about going to yoga last night, and that's a practice of mine. I've been having that as a pretty intense practice 3, 4, 5 times a week for a little over a year now. And I was in yoga last night as a newish instructor. I've only a second of her classes that I had attended, I think, and so I'm still getting familiar with her and her style of teaching. I really enjoyed the physicality of it, but there's 8 facets of yoga, and the physical piece of it is just one of them. There's the mindfulness and meditation and others. But one thing I realized last night that I was struggling with was the mindfulness of it. Right, the physical was great. It was good. It was very good exercise. It's a vinyasa class, so there's movement, and it takes a lot of strength and balance and things, and that was all very good. But one of the things that went through my mind at some point was, and I remember this actually as a thought in my mind, was there are so many things. Here we are this time of year with holidays. Who knows what you've got going on there personally, family, friends, others, maybe in your work or your business. There's a lot. And yesterday I needed to run a couple of errands, and I went to Target, I went to Aldi, and there's just a lot. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of everything. And so that was going through my head last night as I was trying to open my mind and engage in this yoga practice in a mindful way. It was a struggle. And it reminded me that a lot of the instructors, hi Christian, a lot of the instructors will talk about leaving your stuff at the door, setting down what you don't need to carry, essentially. And that's really this article written based on the Ram Dass quote, "It's all grist for the mill." It's kind of about that, right? Everything, um, you know, everything that we carry, every experience that we have, every responsibility that we think we have. And I use this all the time, but I was having a conversation last night, and um, and it was really, one of the questions was, who are you trying to protect? Because in this conversation, there's a worry about how certain people were going to react to this, that, and the other, and that was one of the questions: is who are you worried about? Who are you carrying this for? Are you carrying it for yourself? Are you carrying it for this person? Are you carrying it for that person? And what should you be carrying? That's just one example. I think, a lot of times we take on responsibility for other people's feelings. We take on responsibility for how someone else is going to show up. These are personal examples, right? But we can take on responsibilities in from a business point of view, career point of view that just aren't ours. Nicole. And that's the big question: is what are we carrying, and should we be? It's all hard enough without carrying additional load, without taking responsibility for things that aren't ours. And it's, here we are in the park, all these trees, and these trees don't take on anything that's not theirs. And not voluntarily. I mean, sometimes people hang things in them, people climb. I guess there's actually seen anybody climbing a tree in the park, but but these trees are absolutely focused on growth, on survival, on sustainability. I don't suppose they have. Maybe that's where it starts with us, somewhere in our brains and our emotions and feelings. We start to overthink things. We start to take responsibility for things. We start to try to control things or fix things, or any number, any version of that. And all it does is it inhibits us. It inhibits our ability to grow. Morning, Scott. Did you hear this morning? New bridge. How about that? I try to get ahead of this dog. And so, I think this, if you read the whole article from Meditate with Ram Dass, I think is the name of the creator, where they're taking that Ram Dass quote everything is grist for the mill, and saying that, the grist, know anything about grist mills? Um, right, that's the stuff that gets ground and transformed into, I don't know, would that be a byproduct, I guess? Um, that's the stuff, as we live our lives, as we do our work, as we relate with people, we get ground. No owls. So Scott's asking um, about owls. Um, there have been a lot. I think the most I ever saw around me at one time was like 6 owls, and I haven't seen the owls for a while, maybe 9 months. In fact, I took a walk a couple months ago. So this creek, it's called Pleasant Run, um, runs all through. I don't even know where its origin is, or I assume it dumps eventually into the White River or another tributary before it gets to the White River. Um, but I took a walk a month or two ago. About, it was 2 miles, actually. It was 2 miles along this creek, just to see if I could figure out where the owls have gone, because there's plenty of habitat around here for them. There's plenty of habitat in the neighborhood, and we've had all this construction going on here. I assume that's kind of driven them away. But yeah, I haven't seen any for a while. That house over there, the White House, there's a big tree in the front yard, which hopefully you can see there. It's had owls nesting in it. In fact, they've got a little hand painted thing on their porch. It's like one of those welcome or whatever. It's got an owl on it. But anyway, owls, some ducks in the lake. The sandhill cranes have been migrating overhead the last couple of weeks. There's, I don't know, Carolyn has lakes on either side of her place, and I haven't noticed the last couple times I've been over there if there have been any ducks out there. Until recently, they have a hard time frozen pond, but the hawks are here. The other birds, maybe the ducks and the geese are still here. Don't know. When we go through our business, when we go through our relationships, when we go through our personal things, our practices, our aging, all of it. I think, maybe part of the importance of the Ram Dass quote is that we're going to be transformed no matter what. We don't get out of, well, you don't get out alive, I guess. But over time, through experience, through age, through the years, through uh, heartbreak and success, and all of the things of experience of humanity, that changes. We will be transformed whether we like it or not. And I think, the idea of allowing that, aligning with that, maybe aligning with that is important. How many things have you resisted strongly resisted in the past, in whatever context, only to figure out at some point on the other side, Whatever the lesson it was that you're when with this howling again today. Hopefully you can hear okay. Whatever lesson it was that life was trying to teach you through that, the thing that you were resisting, the hardships of the time. Maybe you strongly opposed, maybe you resisted something for a long time, only to figure out later that wherever you are, wherever you got to, ended up being a roundabout way to learn the lesson that that you're meant to learn. And you resisted that thing, and so the universe said, "Okay, I'll teach you that lesson in another way." So dog that always comes and runs to the fence. Maybe not today. Maybe he doesn't like wet grass, or he just wants to get behind me. I think. So he come up behind me. He's stalking me now. There he is. um, we're going to be transformed. All of the things are going to be ground. All the baggage that we carry eventually we'll have to drop it. Maybe the real question is, what if we drop it sooner rather than later? What if we set down the things that we don't need to carry? Yeah, there were a lot of birds back there. I said it before, maybe even said it or alluded to it earlier, but a thing that I know about yoga is that just like any type of growth, it comes through discomfort. And so you go to yoga and you get into these different positions, and part of the reason to do it is to challenge yourself, right? To get to that point of discomfort and lean into the discomfort, but not to the point of pain, because that's damaging. That's a signal that we're damaging ourselves. But it's so much harder. Nicole and Scott and Christian heard this earlier, but it's so much harder to mindfully be in that space of discomfort. The place where we're going to learn, the place where we're going to push ourselves and to grow, whether it's through flexibility, the physical piece of it, or anything else. It's so much harder to be there and lean into that and learn from that if we're carrying all of this other weight. We have all of this stuff on our mind, which is, this is part of what I was struggling with last night. It was just being able to open my mind and let the things that were on my mind flow away. We're not going to grow. I guess this is the thing, right? We're not going to grow if we're continually fighting. When we're fighting, we're using valuable resources. What does fighting mean? Well, I don't know. Literally be, right? It could be physical, but when we're fighting against, well, like I said earlier, when we're fighting against something that we think we can and should protect ourselves or someone else from, when we're fighting the reality of some sort of, I don't know, some sort of market trend, if we're talking about business, when we're fighting any number of things that we choose to to fight against, then we're spending resources on the negative rather than on the positive. We're spending resources on trying to maintain status quo or trying to push back against something rather than to find a flow, find a way forward. One thing that came up in conversation this weekend was the idea of it started as a question. Squirrel, literally. Started as a question. We've heard this before. It's, are you running away from something or are you running towards something? Ultimately, whatever the answer is, you're moving in the same line, away from or towards, assuming that those opposites are related somehow, but you're moving in the same line. But you're expending vastly different resources. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just spending resources in different ways. Right? If you're spending your resources on running towards something that you want, rather than running away from trying to avoid something that you don't want, you're spending resources on the positive, on the positive motion, the positive momentum. And you might find as you do that, as you go, that you find some momentum, that you find some energy from other sources. Maybe even just find some inspiration and success. It's hard to find inspiration and success when we spend all of our time fighting against or trying to get away from. I know a lot of people, I've been in this boat plenty, a lot of people that hold a lot of the negative, I need to get away from this, this is bad, whatever the things are. And I think that also leads to directly into scarcity mindset, which also doesn't help us grow. So I'm almost to the coffee shop. If we can set down the things that we don't need to carry, if we can work towards the things that we want, the things that do serve us, if we can focus on the abundance and not scarcity, then perhaps that allows us to grow in a way that we haven't been growing to date. If we're holding on to all those other things, maybe setting down the things that we don't need to carry can lighten the load and help us to grow. All right. Made it to the coffee shop. I'm going to go in, see who the cast of characters is. I'm going to get my espresso, and I'm going to walk home with What's So Free. And here we are. We had singing that just a week ago, and now rain is threatening. So I'll be back tomorrow about 9:30. Thanks for walking with me. Have a great day. Happy holidays.